Welcome to Beyond the Balance Sheet, the podcast where we explore the inner workings of financial operations and uncover the stories, systems, and strategies that keep everything running smoothly behind the scenes. I'm your host, Justin McKinney, and in each episode, we'll dive into key financial topics with industry experts and partners to help you better understand the financial landscape of your organization and your clients. Today's episode is all about accounts receivable, how payments are received, recorded, and reconciled, and the vital roles that both client teams and accounting staff play in this process. Joining me today are Barb Mann, GMP Director of Administration, and Megan Pfefferly, GMP Director of Operations. Barb, Megan, welcome.
Hello,
Hi,
Justin.
Justin.
Barb, I'd like to start with you and have you walk us through the various forms of payment that are received by our client teams.
Certainly, I'm happy to do that. So payments typically come in three forms. The first form would be credit card payments. These are processed directly through the client's AMS system. And since the payer enters their own information, it requires minimal staff time. We often import this data directly into our accounting system, which reduces manual entry and the risk of errors. This second form of payment that comes in the form of checks, and these are mailed to our office. A designated member of our accounting team will sort the checks by clients, deposit them weekly, scan and save all the documentation, and then enter the revenue into both the AMS system and our accounting system. And the third form of payment that comes in the form of ACH and wire transfers directly into Bremer Bank. These, we go ahead and pull reports by client. Again, one of the accounting team members goes in and pulls the reports. They then enter this revenue into the AMS platform for their respective client, and the assigned accountant for that team then records it into the financial system.
Barb, thanks so much for explaining those different types of payments. You mentioned earlier a bit about how these payments are recorded, but I'd like to dig into this a bit more from the client team perspective. Megan, I'd like to pull you into this conversation to walk us through that piece.
Sure, Justin. So when payments come in, whether they're via ACH or wire, the accounting team will send notification to the appropriate client teams and team members. It is then their responsibility to enter this revenue into the client's specific AMS platform. The client team is then required to inform their team accountant, so that could be you, Justin, or Tommy, with the correct GL codes so that the accountant can enter that same data into our NetSuite system, which is the accounting platform. Both of these steps need to be handled efficiently, and with the expectation for the client team is that they are processing these payments the same day they're receiving that email notification or within a 24-hour business time frame. This then helps our accounting team, be able to process financials quickly and easily.
Thank you both, Barb and Megan. I appreciate that. Now that we know how these payments are received and how and who needs to account for them in the various platforms, let's round out our podcast with some pros and cons of each payment type. Megan, what are your thoughts on credit card payments?
Well, clearly, as Barb stated at the beginning of this, it is the most convenient and efficient way for our client teams to collect revenue from their memberships. There is the downside, the processing fees that are typically associated with credit cards, which can be 3% and sometimes even higher. And then that fee reduces the actual revenue that's being received, which is important to keep in mind, especially for larger transactions. We are seeing more AMS platforms design and enable their systems to allow for surcharges, which is a way for the clients to recoup some of those swipe fees, if you will, from their membership.
Okay, Barb, how about check payments?
Yeah, Justin. So check payments have their challenges of their own. We will always have organizations that will have to submit payments for um, dues or registrations or sponsorships in the form of checks. So just due to the fact that oftentimes organizations, you know, need to submit it in the form of a check versus, sending it via ACH or wire. So there is more manual effort involved in processing those checks. Obviously, we have to scan all the documents, save all the documents, um, and enter the information, into the databases as normal, but then also storing those physical checks for a period of 30 to 60 days. Um, the other challenge that comes with the checks is oftentimes they don't come with clear documentation. So it takes accounting team member time to identify what the check is for and then to be able to apply it correctly.
I can see how that would be a challenge for sure. Megan, how about the last form of payment that we were talking about, those electronic ACH and wire transfers?
Justin, by far, ACH and wire are probably the most efficient way to get payment, but they can also incur fees. There are times that banks will charge a wire fee from both sender and receiver. Bank statements often lack detailed information on wires and ACH, so it can make it harder when identifying that source of funds. Again, the key from my perspective is timely communication between our client teams and accounting is the best way to ensure that accurate recording of client payments is happening.
Any final thoughts or tips from each of you?
Yes, Justin, I would say, every team member plays a role in the accounting process. It's a collaborative effort, and understanding how your actions impact the financials is crucial. Our goal is to provide our clients with accurate and timely financial data. And in order to do that, we have to collaborate and make sure that we are processing this incoming revenue in a timely manner.
I echo what Barb just said. I think building a strong relationship with your assigned accountant is essential. Open communication, shared best practices make this process smoother and more accurate.
And from the accounting side of it, the accountant side of it, I could not agree more. So thank you both, Megan and Barb, for sharing your insights today. This will wrap up our episode on accounts receivable. Join us next time as we explore the other side of the financial equation, accounts payable. And until then, remember, knowledge is power.